It looks like the end of the Elbaf arc is going to conclude with the monster trio each getting their own 1v1s, just like Wano. We haven't gotten end of arc 1v1s in a long time since Wano, which was a couple years at this point, so I'm really looking forward to it. So in this video, we're going to be looking at what are the possible power-ups for each fighter, and we're going to be starting off with Luffy. Before we can theorize on Luffy's new upgrade, we need to look at all of the events that are leading up to this power-up. How has Luffy struggled against these opponents that he needs to beat for the end of this arc? This is very similar to Wano again, where we just couldn't damage Kaido. We needed this special new upgrade being Conqueror's coding, and in this arc we have this immortality factor that we can't get through. So in order to figure out how is Luffy going to grow, I think we just need to look at Wano again, because in Wano the entire problem was that we couldn't damage Kaido, and then when we start fighting Kaido, we figure out that Kaido is wielding the exact power system that we need to beat him. We needed Conqueror's coding to damage Kaido, and what do you know, he's using it. Luffy is able to figure it out because he's hit by those Conqueror's coding attacks. So Luffy needs to believe in these new powers. He needs to understand that these things are possible to do. Luffy's powers are all revolving around freedom, so once he understands that he's free to do these things, he'll do it. Because with Conqueror's coding, he had the means to do it. He had Conqueror's Haki. He had a mission. He just didn't know that you could put Conqueror's Haki into your normal mission. So it's possible he has all the tools necessary for this new power-up. He just didn't know how to use it correctly. And that's why I think it's time to learn through Imu. This entire 1v1 with Loki, Imu has just been going on and on about their powers. Imu's basically explaining their powers right to Loki. So I just think when Luffy starts fighting Imu's going to be doing the same thing. Luffy's powers are a lot more similar to Imu's than Loki's. So I think once Imu starts talking about their powers, Luffy's going to be able to pick up on those things. And when we look at how much Joy Boy is brought up by Imu, I think Imu's going to be talking about Joy Boy. Imu has already fought against a Nika fruit user. So when Imu starts talking about what was Joy Boy doing in the past, that could give Luffy even more ideas. So I think this fight is going to be a big learning lesson for Luffy. So the first power up I think he can get is enhancing his imagination. I think Imu has a very similar power to Gear 5, considering Imu can just do basically whatever they want with Omen. Imu seemingly always has an Uno reverse card where Imu can just basically counter anything. Loki shoots giant fireballs at you, you just summon a giant circle and shoot some back. Luffy's trying to hit you with a giant hammer swing, you just summon this giant fireball to block it. You're going in for a clash against Loki's hammer, well, we can just create a giant mace club. So I think once Luffy sees Imu being very creative with their power, Luffy's going to be able just to say, I wonder if I can do more things with mine. And if Imu starts dropping lines that like, oh, my power is similar to yours or something like that, then Luffy can start expanding with Gear 5. I think the most obvious upgrade though is Conqueror's Haki improvement. Earlier in the arc, Gaban and Luffy had a conversation, and Gaban was telling Luffy you need to be mindful of the way you're using your Conqueror's Haki, because these world government guys, they are by no means immortal. It is not clear what you need to damage an immortal being. Is it just Conqueror's Haki coding, or do you need to do something more specific? Luffy did beat the shit out of Summers, but it's not clear if he was doing the thing that Gaban was telling him to do. So I think it might come later in this fight with Imu where Luffy has like a conscious, okay, I need to be doing something specific against these immortal guys. So I think that either Luffy is going to figure that out, or we're going to get that revelation that he is doing something correct. Luffy already has very good Conqueror's coding, but I think he can hone it even more in this fight. For Luffy's next upgrade, I think it's his biggest one, and it's going to be Gear 5. This kind of ties into the imagination section that we covered earlier. I think that Luffy is going to be able to really start to enhance his imagination factors with Gear 5. I don't really think that means that we're getting Gear 6. I just think that Luffy's going to start to utilize his imagination much more. Because if imagination is the key power behind Gear 5, Luffy really hasn't been using it. Luffy still thinks he's Rubber Boy. Luffy still uses his rubber attacks, but he uses his imagination combined with his rubber attacks. Once he realizes he can do whatever he wants, then we're going to start seeing some even more crazy shit. And lastly, the biggest is Omen and Maki. I think that Omen and Maki is like the Conqueror's coding of Wano. This is the next big power system that we're going to be introduced to. I think that once Luffy is hit by some of these Omen Maki attacks by Imu, he's going to start to understand how it works, and he might be able to do it. And I think that this might even be necessary to take down Imu. The same way Conqueror's coding was needed to take down Kaido, Omen and Maki might be needed to take down Imu. I've theorized in the past that what you need to get Maki is you need to align your will with your secondary power source, that being your sword or your fruit, and you need to have Conqueror's Haki. So I think Luffy in this fight, if he starts to understand his imagination, he understands how Omen and Maki works, he can start to align his will more freely with his fruit, and he can maybe start to achieve Omen Maki. Maybe he doesn't get it completely in this fight, but now towards the end of the series, we're getting closer to that point. Now moving on to Zoro, I think that this is the most obvious upgrade for anyone in the monster trio. The beginning of this arc, during that conversation with Gaban, again, Gaban was basically giving Zoro shit because he didn't understand that he had Conqueror's Haki, he didn't know how to use it. Zoro is going to need to learn how to use Conqueror's Haki because he's going to need to damage an immortal being Summers. So I think at a bare minimum, Zoro's going to understand that he has Conquerors. He's going to really start to figure it out. He's going to have Conqueror's coding on lock, and he's going to figure out how to damage these immortal beings. And I think that there's even a possibility for Omen and Maki for Zoro. If we look at Wano, again, Zoro got Conqueror's coding just like Luffy did. So if I'm saying Omen Maki is needed in this fight the same way that Conqueror's coding was in the past, I think that Luffy could get Omen / Maki to a much greater degree in this arc, and Zoro could maybe be introduced to it. The same way that he was able to like latently pull out his Conqueror's coding ability against King, but he didn't really understand how it worked. I think that that could happen here with Maki. So I theorized in the past that what you need to do is make a pact with your secondary power source. Zoro has Conqueror's Haki. He is aligning his will with the will of the blade. Zoro's always aligned his will with his blade. He's always been a swordsman first. I think that you need to align your will with the will of the sword. So you need to be a pure swordsman and have Conqueror's Haki. I think that this is the requirement for a black blade. That's why I think Mihawk has a black blade, but someone like Shanks, someone like Roger, someone like Zebek, they don't have a black blade, is because they're not pure swordsmen. And when we look at when Zoro got Conqueror's Haki, we see this Grim Reaper figure. I believe that this was the start of him initiating that pact with his blades. So it's possible in this fight, once he starts to understand how Conqueror's Haki works, and we're in this Omen Maki era, Zoro could figure out how to meet the Grim Reaper again. And Summers has the Omen pact, so if Summers is using Maki-like abilities, it could give Zoro even more hints. We are approaching the end of the series, so if Zoro's gonna get a black blade, it has to be soon. So I think it makes sense if we're getting introduced to this new power system of Maki, and Zoro needs a black blade very soon, then this could be the path forward. And now lastly for Sanji, I think that Sanji's the most difficult to guess because he usually has very unique upgrades. He doesn't get the standard Conqueror's coding. He doesn't get the standard, oh, I just learned Future Sight. He's unlocking his Germa genetics. He's unlocking a new blue flame. So for Sanji, I think it's very difficult to guess the exact thing he's going to be getting, but I think we can guess overall what his power system is going to be. It might just show up in different ways than you might think. So I do think he's getting Conqueror's Haki. We had the moment with Gabon earlier in the arc. It still wasn't explained what they were talking about. And if Gabon has Conqueror's Haki, there's no way Sanji doesn't get it. Sanji's gonna need Conqueror's Haki to damage Killingham. They're immortal. But when I was talking about Sanji having unique upgrades, this is where he could manifest his Conqueror's Haki in unique ways. It might just be that he gets a new color flame. I think that's more boring, but it could be the case. But he could get some type of other upgrade, or we could get a reveal that he actually has been subconsciously using Conqueror's Haki through his flames. You never really know with Sanji. And lastly is Omen Maki for Sanji. I don't really think this could be the case. I don't really think this is the case because I don't really see how he would be achieving Maki because he doesn't really have any other secondary power system. But some of the dialogue around Sanji's Diablo Jambe are very odd, like this one when he first unlocked it. And when we look at Imu's Maki in general, it shows up as these black flames. So I find it very interesting that it's basically flames mixed with Haki, and that's exactly what Sanji basically does. So who knows? Sanji could get Maki at the end of this arc. We could find out that he's been using some type of Maki this whole time. But that's all I got for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. That's all I got for today. See ya.